Welcome. This is ActiveSpirituality.life. It is a weekly forecast program with astrology and a guided meditation activation to help you make the most of your week. It's run by Pamela Cucinell, that's me, the astrologer, and Suzy Meszoly, Master Healer. We invite you to find out more about our individual work. Suzy Meszoly, SuzyMeszoly-healer.com, or insightoasis.com for astrology. You can also find both of us at activespirituality.life, and we look forward to your joining us every week. Please share with your friends. Here we go.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to activespirituality.life with Pamela Cucinell and Suzy Meszoly. Welcome to week 17 of 2022. Pam's going to tell us all about the week starting Monday, April the 25th, and then I will be back just after the beginning, actually. We're going to be going through to the 1st of May, and then I will jump in with our meditations. What's in store for us, Pam, for this last week of April?
Okay, well, this is the big week in that we have an eclipse and new moon as the week progresses. So some of us may be feeling that sense of what's ahead. And the best way to deal with this week is to get things done, get it off your desk, wrap things up, put in place things you want to put in place. We're in the waning moon cycle before we get to the new moon at the at the end of this week. And so it's important to prioritize, make things happen. And this is especially strong on Monday and Tuesday because the energy of the moon movement is on our side to get things done and work in ways that are really therapeutic. So it doesn't matter what your work is or what you're trying to get done. I'm not just talking about healing arts. But when I say it is therapeutic, what I mean is that what's happening is we are able to really go into what needs to be addressed. So it's a heightened sixth sense and beyond that happens on Monday, Tuesday, especially for people with a lot of water or earth in their horoscope. It's this heightened sensitivity to what needs to be done, how it needs to be done, and why it needs to be done. And the focus isn't so much on the why, in that, logically, this is why I have to do that. But it's more that the why comes in with, no, this takes precedence. This has to happen now. I am feeling the flow of this to make it unfold. And that ability to trust that over Monday and Tuesday is really going to work well for some of us. We're going to really move into the ability to be free and clear as we get to that new moon energy. So if you're thinking, well, I don't have earth and water, what's Pam talking about? I'm not going to have an excellent couple of days. That's not necessarily true, because there are people in your life you're being affected by. Could be businesses that are earth and water emphasis. It could be your partners, your family members. And what's important here is to not fight the wave. It's really, I actually saw this little video that, Instagram, Facebook, all the different mediums, people will send you these little videos or things. And most of the time I have a clock and it's like, no, I'm not getting lost in whatever this is. But the one I saw this morning was really powerful because it was about this lifeguard who had gone into the surf to rescue somebody in a boogie board. And then when he was working his way out after the one person had been rescued, he slipped because he was walking up this rocky beach and got swept back into the high surf. So a surfer who was watching it from the beach went diving in, and the two men were able to right themselves on the board in a helicopter. I mean, it was quite dramatic, all in about 30 seconds. But I bring it up because that's the power that is available on Monday and Tuesday. It's this Pisces moon energy that is all about how are we connected in the big universal unconscious. And when we are heightened awareness of this and we are working together, we can survive the tsunami and come out really the heroes of our own movies, of our own stories. So, very powerful day on Monday for really going with the momentum, riding the wave. Tuesday, also excellent day. Actually, Tuesday is the day that we can just really maximize things that are especially related to the arts, just breaking through what seems to be impenetrable walls, peace resolution, mediation, also tremendous for anything that's healing work, meditative. Fabulous day, the 26th. Then we get to Wednesday, the 27th. Now things are changing. Once we get by early morning, 9:36 a.m., when the moon goes void, of course, very nice, juicy energy that morning. Then the moon is void in the sign of Pisces until a little past noon, and the times I give are Eastern time. So what happens as of 12:10 p.m. is that the moon enters Aries. Now, this isn't necessarily like, ooh, bad. Aries is a fire sign. It's what we call cardinal. It's very direct. People are going to want to get up, get moving. But it's energetically very different than what was available to us earlier in the week. Now, the void of course period, when I talk about that, for those who don't listen regularly, in this case, it's just a couple hours and it's in the sign of Pisces. So that is an invitation to just lose yourself in whatever project or music or art or meditation, whatever you can do that just allows you to just stay with the coast, whatever you're coasting on. Because when the moon's void, of course, it's not usually a good time to initiate or engage in a new project because there's no real glue that holds anything together. So we're better off just floating for a while and enjoying the present and no expectations. When the moon is in Aries in the afternoon, evening, through the next day, the 28th, we're in a period that is very dynamic, very assertive, a bit aggressive, very different feel than what happened earlier in the week. The thing that's intriguing on the 27th is that there's a picture in the sky where Venus is in line with Neptune. So the ideal of that is that people feel a lot of very strong, loving connection, inspired, the highest octave of connectivity. And that's at 3:12 p.m. specifically. So the build up to it may feel like still this opening of heart. Because the moon is in Aries, some people may approach too fast, too aggressively, too hot. And so be aware of that. It's not necessarily bad, it's just something to be aware of. The next day on Thursday, the 28th, we're not in the groove of that Venus Neptune energy, but we're really booking with that moon in Aries energy. And so it's a very like moving, wanting to get things asserted, said, headbutting, power struggles. And this is emphasized because on Friday the 29th, Pluto goes retrograde. Now, Pluto going retrograde, and we're also in the what we call the shadow or the buildup before Mercury goes retrograde, which will happen once we get into May. But what's going on at this point in time is that we are in the space where things tend to get revealed and other things go underground. So when the slow moving planets go retrograde or direct, there is almost it's like a reset or a shift that's occurring. And Pluto, because it's about irrevocable transformation and what's underneath the surface, going retrograde and in this rather intense couple of days, there's going to be a lot of pushback. So we're going to see pushback think of a wounded animal in a corner. That's the kind of energy that's around. So you don't necessarily want to poke the bear, but if there's things that you're working on, expressing, and that you're really committed to truth to power with, these days may be particularly intense for you because and we see it on the world stage, all the pushback of people who have had a lot of power and wealth and are feeling threatened, and the question mark is, well, where exactly do they think the threat comes from? And it's really a threat of their own making. So, not to get in too deluded about that. And yes, most of us are not having direct dealings with like people who are uber wealthy or uber powerful, but we get all the levels of stages of that kind of energy and how those who hold it feel threatened. And it doesn't matter if it's the dynamics of a personal relationship, business relationship, exchange at a bank, or some kind of negotiation. If you find yourself in a situation or a confrontation that feels as though someone is very aggressively, almost like for survival, holding on to something or determined to win at something, it's a point where we ask ourselves, where is the give? Do I walk away? Or is this just way too important? And for people who have planetary energy or angles in late degree of cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Capricorn, and Libra, this may be very personal for you or for someone in your life who's undergoing all that. So be aware that we don't want to dampen the energy at this point in time or try to diffuse it. You want to see it, but ask yourself how deeply you want to engage. And I beat this like a mantra, including to myself. That's why it's like a mantra. There's a difference between how I react and how I respond. So it's important to check in with the reaction, but then choose your response. So the moon goes void, of course, at 5:38 p.m. on Friday the 29th, and it stays void until it enters Taurus at 8:19 p.m. Mercury, meanwhile, is entering Gemini, and as I mentioned, it will be going retrograde in a little over a week. So some of us, especially people with strong Mercuries in their horoscope or Geminis or Virgos, you're probably already feeling like, signals are crossing what's going on. When the moon enters Taurus at 8:19 p.m., now we're leading up to that new moon solar eclipse that happens on the 30th. And this is the eclipses that happen over the end of this year they're of consequence because they they awaken the nodes of the nodal axis of Taurus and Scorpio. And so they are engaging those of us who have strong connections to those signs, but it's also having an effect on, in the case of the United States, the president of the United States, whose horoscope basically reflects the mood of the country. That's what happens with world leaders. So, because the president of the United States he's a Scorpio with the moon in Taurus, when we are going through these eclipses, in this case on the 30th, it's the new moon in the sign of Taurus. It is activating not only the individual, but the country of the United States. So that's kind of a big deal. We had that also, interestingly, with the last president, Trump, who had a full moon in dancing between Gemini and Sagittarius. This president, Biden, we're looking at Scorpio, moon in Taurus. And there are no accidents in astrology and the geometry of how we watch the stars. It's intriguing how this lights up what's going on with the United States leader during this whole period that's been so active for us as we've moved into this millennium. So Saturday the 30th, that solar eclipse new moon happens at 10 degrees Taurus, 28 minutes. And it is exact at 4:28 p.m. So the nice part about how this eclipse is lighting up this year is that it ends up making rather harmonious aspects with Venus and Pluto and Jupiter. I mean, it's all kind of good juice. It does, however, engage and require stepping up to responsibilities. So if you or a significant person or someone you're dependent on or engaged in an active way is avoiding responsibilities at this time, this is going to be a challenging new moon confrontation, because it's basically saying, step up, declare, determine what you're willing to do, how you're going to do it, and engage. So, and it's fixed, because Taurus is, we can say a lot of things about all the signs, but Taurus is an earth sign. It's loyal, it's tenacious, it stays on the task. It can be a bit brutal. Think about the bull. It is determined to go ploddingly the course that it chooses to go. And so we want to make sure that we're on board and directed in something that we're willing to go the distance and make happen in the way that we choose. It's also because it is an eclipse, and think about what was going on for you in 2004 at this point in time in the spring, because it tends to speak a lot about authority figures in our lives. So for some of us, it can be very personal. It can be about father or boss or finding it, and really, in the end, it's about finding the authority within. And so whatever commitments or responsibilities you may have at this time that may eclipse other things in your life, look at how you hold them, decisions you make about them, and what your ultimate goal is with them. Very powerful new moon. And Sunday, we're in the waxing energy of this. And it's really very good, heightened energy for us to keep aiming for what it is we want to accomplish, especially things that have to do with finance and our personal commitments and health. And now I turn it over to Suzy.
So I invite everyone now to take that wonderful 10 little minutes that we do every week and just take a few deeper breaths and allow yourself to arrive and be present. And as we do that, let's just check in with ourselves a little bit. Where am I? What am I up to? What am I feeling? And as we are talking about our responses versus our reactions, just allow that information to come up to the forefront of your mind, of your consciousness. And let's today examine a little bit of that reaction that we have that we call anger. And as we open up that can of worms, maybe for some of us, let's just notice how much anger we have in our own lives about perhaps ourselves or about personal things around us. Or we might be part of the global anger situation where we're angry at the conditions in the world, angry at the injustice, angry at the wars, angry at the climate injustice. So just tap in and notice where you are on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 to 100, with anger, and whether you do feel any anger, what that anger is about, and just take a moment to assess that. Perhaps you're very involved with your own world and your own conditions, and you're not really thinking about what's going on outside of your own bubble. And perhaps you're not angry about what's happening in the world at large, but just in your own bubble. Just notice where you're at. Maybe you're feeling overwhelmed even by your own bubble, and it doesn't allow you to think about things outside. But every single human being has experienced anger in different ways, and some of us work very hard to understand it, to use it as a tool for spiritual development. Some of us use it perhaps as a motivation to do things. Some of us also just tap it down, suppress it, and push it away. But one thing I am very, very sure about is that there is always something behind anger. Anger always appears to be like a top layer. So let's just contemplate, just meditate a little bit. And we're doing this from our spiritual mind. So it's always important when we're doing these types of talking meditations, and meditation being simply a focus of the mind, it's important that we're doing this from a very spiritual point of view, so that you can, like an eagle flying high in the sky, or a vulture or a condor, one of those birds that flies very, very high in the sky, and you're looking down and you're examining, so that when we do this, we're examining through a spiritual lens. You're looking down and you're actually not getting involved with it, but you're observing and analyzing and having a spiritual point of view. So now we can go into the state of anger and just look like, what is behind that door of anger? And we might find that there's a lot of anxiety or fear. And much of our anger about what's happening in the world can certainly be because we are fearful for people and for our world. But also behind anger, we can also find confusion. We can also find a sense of helplessness, like I can't do anything about it, or even a sense of despair. We could feel that it's just overwhelming and too big for us. We might also feel some depression or sadness. We might feel perhaps loneliness or isolation, depending on our point of view. The anger could be the outer layer of what's going on underneath, which could be guilt or embarrassment, humiliation. Many, many different levels. We might feel rejected. And of course, behind a lot of anger is simply being hurt, a feeling of being hurt, of sadness, of even grief. So just as you notice your anger, or when anger has come up for you, always question, if you can try and catch yourself, like, what's going on here? And am I afraid? Am I sad? Am I feeling shame? Am I feeling hurt? Am I just feeling embarrassed? Am I feeling jealous, envious? Am I feeling guilty? So just always notice, what is that underlying layer? That anger is almost like the release valve where the pressure comes out, where underneath there's a deeper state. And let's look at that deeper state and learn, what is my spiritual lesson from being in this state? What can I learn? What from this place can be my takeaway, my understanding, so that I don't have to be in this reactive anger? What can I do? What can I do to make the situation better? How can I take responsibility for where I am now? How can I really understand my own feelings and my own needs and step into a place literally of making this all work for me? So we ground the information with confidence, knowing that we know ourselves pretty well. And we bring courage to the situation, knowing that, yes, from this place I can grow. From this place, from this story, from this condition, from this situation, I can grow. I can really, in this place, practice awareness. I can be vulnerable. I can show who I am and be who I am. And I can be here and fully embodied. Spirit, self, identity, all here. So as we gently just recognize this within ourselves, recognizing that, of course, this is with everybody else. There is always a story behind the anger. There is always the feeling, and perhaps next time we're around angry people, we can perhaps reach out to help them if we can, and just ask them what's going on and help to find what is the deeper layer here. It's time for us to all deepen now. Deepen into self-awareness and loving kindness. Gently, we take a few deeper breaths, knowing that this loving kindness is within all of us. And as we're ready, opening our eyes and spreading all this loving kindness to all beings everywhere. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Pam, again, as always, for incredible insight, and we'll see you all next week. Love now.
You have been listening to Suzy Meszoly and Pamela Cucinell of ActiveSpirituality.life. If you've enjoyed this program, consider a donation. You can find the link for that, ActiveSpirituality.life. Regardless, we look forward to having you join us again for next week's podcast. Please share and have a great week.